Nikki Colon, and I'm the host of Sasquatch Secrets. I'm here today with Thomas Steenburg. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Brent Dill, the tall one.
Tall, short. There we go.
Thomas, we are here in the beautiful Mount St. Helens.
Long history of Sasquatch in this territory. Went by the original name in this area, Mountain Devil, back in the day. And of course, really famous for one of the classic tales, the attack of Ape Canyon, which resulted in the canyon getting its name in 1924 when the four prospectors had their cabin attacked by what they claim were ape men.
We are about, I think, 15 miles from Ape Caves as well, which unfortunately you have to really prepare for that to go down over there.
It's a couple miles cold too. Cold.
Yeah. But this is an absolutely beautiful place that you can see how it has rejuvenated itself after the eruption, and is still in that process of rebuilding itself. So as we're here and have trekked up the side of this mountain, what have you seen that has convinced you that this is a place for Sasquatch?
Well, it's just the long history of it and the continuing history of it. In Washington State, it's one of the most well-known areas for alleged Sasquatch encounters. And so far, in the few days that we've been here, we've come across possible, only stress possible, footprints twice. We've had unusual noises heard at night. And it's not any of us making the noises, so who knows? We haven't seen anything yet, but we're still hoping.
Right. Really focused coming up in your areas. You know, I know it's harder to come down here.
But yeah, when you're coming to a certain area, you got to kind of dial in that particular area, what its needs are, and more importantly, where the food source is, where the water source is, and really kind of dial that in. As we see here, because there was a recent fire that swept through here, which probably caused some issues with growing berries, flowers. That's why we don't really see any right now, which makes you wonder if we're in a transitional area for them right now. And so when you're coming to investigate the area, knowing this stuff beforehand, knowing where the berries are, where to go look, you could probably go put yourself in those situations to potentially find prints. I think that this is a very viable area. I think it's probably going to be more of a walk-through area as far as getting to another area that has more abundant food for them to just to kind of live off. And that's why it's really important to know the areas you're going into and what the flora and fauna is when the berries come in season, because that can help dial in when the salmon run is. And but a lot of potential here. And the thing that really has me wondering is what was manipulating that recorder on night one. That's a huge mystery, and one that I hope we get solved out here.
And you know, the skeptical mind, you go through a bunch of different phases as you're hearing this stuff, like how we had the recorder placed. A bunch of different things come into play. Okay, where was it? How was it placed? Is it easily moved? You know, could a rodent have gone across the mic? Did something pick it up and manipulate it? It sounded like, you know, maybe somebody literally picked it up or was ding ding.
We did some tests. We did some tests that we're going to compare with the experiments that I done to what we actually recorded, because it's a very unusual sound, and it sounded a little different than when I was tapping on it. So I think it would have had to come out of the tree, and it would be really good to amplify it, because it does kind of briefly sound like, I don't know if it's audio pareidolia, but it kind of sounds like there's something walking away from it. So it's something that really needs to be examined more. But another thing that I also kind of want to bring up is when the tree fell, how you, Jen, and Dakota had different perspectives of the experience, how you and Dakota felt it was something else, while Jen was was mentioning how it was a tree, how she felt it was a tree, but you guys
Right.
weren't sure about it because you perceived it as something else. And that there, it's a pretty interesting phenomenon that probably needs to be explored more, of how we perceive and process the experience that we're having right now when we are in a heightened state of alert, because it gets us off guard. We're alert, or we're like, oh, we're jumping up, and makes you wonder of how we process that and how we differently process that.
Right.
Because I think it plays a factor when looking at Bigfoot evidence.
I'll be the first one to tell you that that experience alone helped me have a little more compassion for people when they talk about what they hear, okay? Because right after we all went to bed and that enormous sound happened out of the woods, and my only thought, it was so loud, and I thought it was gunfire, but I heard that choo 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 choo, and your mind wants to think something that loud couldn't possibly just, be the tree, because I didn't hear the branches hitting or snapping. I didn't hear, you felt an impact, I guess, but I don't know, I didn't feel what I would consider a tree going kaboom, okay? It was more of just like a very, like sonic type of
I think Dakota
feeling.
described it best. It was more like an implosion of a tower
Yes.
coming down, like a building coming down.
Yes.
That's kind of the impression I get from it. And I was over here looking at logs. Right over here, there's a down tree, not our tree, a down tree that's in sections of 5 feet. So it's 5 feet, 5 feet, 5 feet, which, kind of will give you that, I think, that how as it fell,
Boom,
it just
boom,
boom, boom, boom,
Ah.
yeah, and how it just kind of broke off in sections. So we're probably
that's
looking
how
for,
it sounded, of one that's like that segmented
yeah,
sections.
yeah. I think that's what we're probably looking for, is a tree like that. And, because there's a lot of dry trees out here. It's dry. It's not like
Yeah.
the North Cascades where it's wet, where it's practically a rainforest. It's very dry here. Trees, have gone through a lot of stress. You don't know what type of beetle damage is going on. But it's the second time that happened to me here at night, of a tree falling down on a windless night. Not saying it's Bigfoot, but hey, that's interesting.
It was. So
I have to look into the possibility.
Have you had anything like that happen, Thomas, as far as like trees coming down around you when
Well,
you're
I've
out
heard trees fall before.
Yeah, on
I
an
even
investigation.
witnessed it once. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It always amazed me how, I don't know whether that was a 150, 200-year-old tree, picked that particular moment to die. Because it was a little breezy, but it wasn't that windy. And it was waving. And it did kind of look like it was waving a little more than the others. So obviously the root system was getting weaker and weaker all the time. And it was a large tree. I'm almost considered old growth. And it went down.
Yeah.
And it made a crackling noise before it started to fall. And when it hit, kaboom.
Well, for this particular night, of course, you get Sasquatch on the brain. So it was quite unnerving to hear something so close, that big, okay? And when I initially heard that and thought it was gunfire, I was like, Jen, did you hear that? Because she was in the next tent over. And she's like, yep.
And let's just be clear, that's the only time it's okay to say, did you hear that? Anyways, go on.
And then Dakota, who was in the next tent over, said, what the F? And we left it at that, and I didn't get one wink of sleep that night, that first night, because then all of a sudden, your senses are like mega tuned to every little thing out there. But the next day, when we all got up and gathered, we were like, what did you hear? What did you hear? And Dakota said, I heard a zoom, 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 ah. And I go, that's what I heard. And Jennifer Watkins, she says, it was a tree. And we go, that did not sound like a tree last night. And she goes, It was a tree.
Standing her ground.
And she stood her ground from the very beginning. She called the tree. I heard a tree. And she goes, it was right over there. And I said, I agree. It was right there. But Dakota and I had a way different take on it. We heard something different or interpreted it different than Jen. So our main goal that day was we got to get that recorder and hope that it had to have caught it. Had to have caught it. Even though from where we heard it and where we had the recorder, we're kind of away from each other. And that night, I sat there listening to audio, which is another thing that I've learned. It sucks. And it's a lot of work to sit there and listen and listen and listen. So I had a speaker on my shoulder and just had it running during conversations. And that's how I was reviewing. And we found it. Brent didn't hear the initial crash.
Yeah, I did. I might have, but I was so preoccupied on dealing with another camp issue that was outside of our camp. So I had to go take care of that and dealt with that. And when I was coming back from that, that's when Dakota was coming, because he was going to go. There's some people out there playing loud music and just crazy, just stupid. And yeah, so I was more focused on that because I was really upset about that because it was like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock at night. And so I don't really recall if I heard it or not because I was getting dressed and was going to go confront them and stuff. And yeah, so when I came back from confronting them, Dakota was coming out and saying that what they just experienced. And yeah, the next morning, they kind of talked about it more. And it was really interesting when we did finally go over it with the audio of what was actually played. It was like, okay, that is a tree.
It's a tree.
100%. We all agree it's a tree.
The second time, okay, it was a tree. And I thought it was a tree. I didn't think it was some Bigfoot literally throwing, a tree down, because it just sounded so weird in this environment when you're so close to that. Because there's trees down all over, right? And they had to get there some way. And does a tree make a sound in the forest when it falls? Yeah, it does. It makes a great big sound, like an explosion. So, and Dakota agreed. He goes, yeah, that was a tree. But it was interesting that, we had heard the same thing and thought it was so weird. And Jen was like, nope, it's a tree. And stood her ground. And that was great because
that's that type of research. Nobody got emotionally committed to their evidence. Like, no, that was Bigfoot. No,
yeah,
we all talked about it rationally. We went to the evidence. We never deviated from the evidence, the factual evidence. And that's the important thing. And, that's the good thing with Thomas on what you have contributed to the Bigfoot subject over the years is that type of mentality. That's what I learned from, and how I operate is from what you've been establishing over decades. And it's like, big thanks to you for putting your neck out there, because I know it wasn't hard. I've seen how, people have come after you for speaking the truth about that coyote howl, about opening up about the Randy Brisson hoaxing and stuff. Very difficult. So I want to commend you for really doing your due diligence, being a good representation of what we should all be as an investigator, of sticking to the facts and never deviate from the facts. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that. And if there's one legacy I'd like to leave behind for this research, for everyone coming into this, is exactly that. Stick to the facts. Never deviate from the facts.
Yeah.
Over and over.
It's a good mantra to live by, because it's a good, you're not going to get lost in a rabbit hole. You're not going to get lost in a narrative, and just be open-minded of different interpretations of evidence, as we saw with that tree fall. You guys came together and worked it out, and it's still an interesting thing with that tapping, though. That's going to be interesting to try and figure that one out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, gentlemen. It has been an honor to have you guys here, and maybe something in the future may be coming out of this. So thank you all for coming to my channel and watching my content. please be sure to hit that like button, share it to your groups, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think.
Share it to people you don't even like too. Just share it around.
Just share it.
Share it at the ice cream stand down there, and just share it around. Like, hey guys, check this out. Of course, you'll be that person, but it's all good.
Hey, you guys, thanks.
Thank
and
you.
see you in the next chat.